One of the things I'm really excited about this session is around collaboration. It's difficult to make collaborations happen. Hopefully this session will give you an insight into how to make a really interesting spectacle come to life. I wanted to introduce Chella Quint, science communication comedian extraordinaire that I've known for quite a few years. And one of the reasons that we wanted her to host this session is because she often performs science communication comedy about space and astronomy. Indeed, she's performed live at CERN in Geneva. So without further ado, I'll introduce Chella Quint, and she'll introduce our panel for Sounds of the Cosmos, the Making of. This is a 1-hour session. There'll be an opportunity for questions, so be thinking as they're chatting, and I'll hand over to Chella. So welcome, Chella.
Hi guys. Hello. Good morning. You have to say good morning as loudly as I say good morning. That's the rules. Good morning. Because we're going to talk about space, right? So you got to be in the mood. Yes? Are you in the mood for space?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. She's in the mood for space. All right. So I'm going to introduce our panel. So we've got Stuart Campbell, who is the concerts producer at the University of Sheffield, based in the Department of Music, on the far left. We've got... No, I'm sorry. I'm doing that completely wrong. I was about to say that you weren't Vanessa. So this is Stuart Campbell on the far left. We've got Vanessa Toulimin, who is in charge of the collaboration, which is as part of Festival of the Mind, and produces Festival of the Mind for Sheffield. And you may have seen her at other events at the festival so far, because she also hosted our opening night events. We have Paul Crowther, who is the astronomer attached to the project, and he's part of the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Sheffield as well. We've also got, sorry, I want to get it all right, Nick Bax, who is the founder and the creative director of Human Studios, who did the animation that was part of the first showing of the project. And we've got George Morton, who is the conductor for the project, and Vanessa calls him George the Conductor. But I promised I'd say his last name so that you could get in touch with him again. But he is the conductor. So please give a round of applause to the panel. Thank you. So Sounds of the Cosmos is going to be shown again this week, and we hope you guys will all come. But it was originally put together after a year-long collaboration and shown at Festival of the Mind this past September. It was a collaboration of the arts and the sciences on a huge scale. And we're going to talk more about the making of it and find out how it got put together so that we can appreciate even more when we see it this week. And also, in case you guys would like to do something like that yourselves, so take notes and think about some questions to ask us at the end. How are you guys feeling? Good. Are you ready to talk space? Yeah. Monday morning, rock and roll, space. Did you guys have a good weekend? Yeah? I don't want to know about Vanessa's weekend. How many events have you done already?
I've presented 2 events, 2 big events, and traumatised a whole series of people in Sheffield with juggling children and boxing kangaroos. So
fantastic.
This is pretty normal compared to my weekend.
So there's not going to be any flying monkeys coming in at any point?
No.
Okay. Just sorry. Just checking. Right. So I wanted to talk to Stuart first of all about the concept. So you put on concerts for the university, is that right?
Yeah, it's my job I program about 100 concerts a year at the Department of Music. So I do all the kind of creative programming, direct festivals, etc., but oversee how concerts are run at the university.
And are you a fan of space?
I love space stuff. I really, really do love space stuff, and I think that was really attractive about this project, because I love space stuff, but I didn't know much about it, and obviously learned an enormous amount through this project. The actual concepts of Sounds of the Cosmos developed in the summer of 2012, actually, so it's about 2 years in the making. And I think, in terms of my role as a music programmer, I think one of the greatest challenges, but also an amazing opportunity within being a programmer within higher education, is trying to align kind of creative outputs with academic objectives, be that research and learning and teaching. And at the time, I was thinking about, we do that really, really well at the University of Sheffield through public engagement and through Vanessa's work. But at the time thinking, there was lots of discussion about research and impact in light of the forthcoming Research Excellence Framework, which measures university research, and had to take a really good, long, hard look at concepts really and think, how can our musical performances vividly translate research going on at the university, and how we could create kind of, I guess, an immersive concert experience that didn't sacrifice artistic integrity, didn't sacrifice academic integrity, was entertaining, and to make an integrative experience. So that was the kind of, I was trying to get my head around what we could do to make that happen.
So not a tall order or anything?
No,
artistic integrity,
right,
not compromising the science, full immersive musical experience.
So many different kind of angles there. The actual, I guess, the artistic drive for it came from a really, really stupid encounter, and these guys have heard this story several times, so apologies. But I was actually travelling at the time. I was in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and went to visit a national planetarium. I don't know if anyone's been to Kuala Lumpur, but it's an impossible city to get over on foot, so I just got completely lost. Got there, it was completely shut. It was monsoon season, the heavens open, so I'm just sat soaking wet outside a planetarium in Kuala Lumpur in the middle of nowhere. And the closest thing I could get to planetary action that day was just to listen to a recording I had of Holst the Planets on my iPhone. So I was like soaking wet in the middle of nowhere, listened to this and thought, this could be a cool idea, this could work.
Thinking about planets while listening to
Holst.
Holst.
Absolutely.
But perhaps not the monsoon element.
No, quite.
Okay.
And,
that's so pitiful, but that's so beautiful. I love that.
But the interesting thing about it, George will talk more about the music in detail, I think, but the Holst's idea for the planets wasn't astronomical associations, but actually astrological. So the approach we took was quite different, actually, from what Holst intended. So really, I saw that as an opportunity, actually. We had this framework of amazing music, and what if we injected the astronomy and I guess the missing science from the work? And that's how the two kind of ideas come together, and it all started, really.
That's great. Well, shall we see a quick clip of it now? It's amazing. So that's far away from sitting in the rain, wishing it would happen.
Yeah, there's a nice distance there. You can see soggy, wet, and seeing that, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful, well done. So I want to talk to Vanessa about how it got from monsoon season to on stage in the Festival of the Mind.
Well, for people who don't know the Festival of the Mind, I'm the director. I'm head director of cultural engagement for the university. I'm a professor in film and entertainment history. So for 2.5 years, I've been running this large-scale engagement programme between the university and the city of Sheffield, and also collaboration. And my idea was to bring academics and artists and creative community together, because the academic had the knowledge and the expertise, but not often the skill set to go and do the engagement. And my favourite, I would say, in the Festival of the Mind, the first Festival of the Mind we did, we had over 150 collaborations, and we funded probably about £250,000 worth of different strands. So that was a big success, but the second one we wanted it bigger and better, and Stuart just came up to me in the university pub, actually, on a sunny afternoon, and said, I didn't do anything in Festival of the Mind, but I really want something next year, next time, and I want you to find me a physicist or just find me. And I'm like, I said, well, it's a really big department. It ranges from people who do massive things to people who do kind of quantum, and some of my colleagues are all on the spectrum. That's a polite way of saying it, yeah? They're on the spectrum in terms of how they want to engage. And then my colleagues in physics said Paul. So that was it. I recommended Paul because it was his research area. And I really left them to it. I said, you have to put an application in, we have to do it. And that's how the whole project was just immense. My involvement was really, I'm one of the funders. It came to the board. We all looked at it. And, Nick is on the board as well. And there was a couple of people who just said, this cannot be done. They can't do it. They can't do this for the money they're asking. And I said, but the difference is we're not paying them in terms of, we're paying the professional musicians, but the academics who normally, and all the other people whose expertise would already cost the money, we were all part of it because it was our research. So I think that was the balance, getting people who had, it's not just about the money, it's about taking their fantastic, for me, as an academic, but also in the university, I'm surrounded by amazing researchers who often don't either have the tools or the platforms. And so what my work at the university has always been about providing platforms and then letting them go in and doing it. And I would also say, as an arts person, the best collaborators are scientists, really fantastic collaborators, because they recognise they don't have the expertise, and they will just accept that other people can bring that to it. That's what I feel. I'm not just saying because Paul's next to me. We have fantastic collaborators in the science at Sheffield, some really amazing science. And I'm not talking about science communication. That's a completely separate thing. This is about the research, high-level, world-class research, coming out into a different platform. So science communication, you have a mediator who communicates your science for you, or your research. And you get professors of science communication, but they're not the professors in their field. And that's the difference. For me, you're getting the actual expert in
So you're bringing out the sort of performativeness of an expert who might not normally find themselves in that role.
You're finding an expert, another expert in their field, whether it be music or drama or arts or anything, bringing them together, and they produce something completely different. Rather than, I mean, no offence, science communication has its really important role.
None taken, Vanessa, it's fine.
It's really, no, but it has its really important role. But for research excellence and for myself as an academic, I want the people who are doing the collaboration to be as experts as I am in my field. So that's to me the importance of Festival of the Mind. You do get that opportunity. So now I've bigged up Paul as the expert.
So he's got to live up to that now.
So that was it really, and then my team worked on it. So it was a massive university collaboration as well, because it wasn't just music and physics and astronomy. It was like the technical department, it was my public engagement team. We took over the Octagon for 2 days. And it was just unbelievable. It sold out in an hour. I mean, it just went. I just couldn't believe it. And you did 2 sessions. I mean, they were great. They would do another session, and the physics department did loads of outreach, but so everybody knew.
And kids came as well. There were school groups that came as well, weren't there?
Yeah. So to me, it was one of the highlights of the festival, because it really took the festival to another level.
So Paul, you had all this physics to choose from, and all this space you could communicate, and it's, you know, people are really huge fans of space right now. It's like a really big topic, even more than ever, I feel like. How did you choose which facts and which information you were going to share?
Well, I deliberately, we saw 7 movements in the planet suite, because there was no Earth, because it's looking out at the planets. The Pluto hasn't been discovered. Nope. So there were 7 movements, and so deliberately I wanted the performance to start and end with the music, and then that required 6 kind of segments of a kind of narrative of astronomy. And we had 2 options, either to kind of focus on the planets, but then of course 7 planets, excluding the Earth, and 6 segments. So in the end, I tried to cover kind of everything in astronomy. So I started with the Earth, and then end with not quite the Big Bang, but kind of cosmology, exoplanets. So I tried to cover everything in the kind of 6 segments in between the music. And I also quite deliberately wanted to make sure that the people watching the performance weren't overloaded with information. So we wanted to, as you've just seen from the extract there, a few facts about the planets, about how many moons they have, like between 0 and 50, and some basic facts about them, but not to be completely, you know, information overload. We wanted it to be mostly listening to music, watching the visuals, which are mostly of the planets themselves or the moons. And then in between, I kind of tried to put together a kind of an overview, but one which was accessible to school kids and all the way up to quite an old audience.
So you were telling us a story throughout.
So I tried to tell a story, and so I would say that we've done a few tweaks to that story for DocFest. So we have adapted it for the different venue, because the Octagon had 8 screens all the way around, and we had 2 dual screen outputs. Here we have a single large screen at the Crucible tomorrow night, and so what I've done for this one is I've kind of slightly repackaged it, where each of the segments is maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So I've stretched our solar system into 2 segments, so one about the planets, one about everything else in our solar system, and tried to bring in some new stuff. So there's this orbiter going around a comet, so I wanted to bring in the latest images of that. So I tried to... Pluto, we're a little bit early for Pluto.
Should we talk about... can we talk about Pluto?
Of course you can, yeah.
Because I feel like we need to talk about Pluto.
We can talk about Pluto, yeah.
Because he wasn't discovered, and he is a he. He wasn't discovered when Holst wrote the planets, just around 100 years ago. Yeah. And he's been discovered and then demoted since. Undiscovered. Is he undiscovered? So is he the undiscovered planet? I mean, is he unsung? Is there room? Can we put him? Have you put him Is he in the? Have you got the Kuiper belt in there? Is there anything?
Yeah. So I mentioned.
I love Pluto.
So Pluto. It's a shame about Pluto is that Pluto. There's a mission now on its way to Pluto. Yes. It gets there next month, and when the mission left, it was a planet. But now when it's got there, it's a
waste of time.
It's not a waste of time. It's a dwarf planet. So it's kind of been demoted. But I do mention Pluto.
You do?
In my notes.
Okay, so tomorrow night, Pluto fans.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
I've got something. I feel like I always felt like culturally Pluto could be a planet, but that scientifically for measurements and accuracy he shouldn't be a planet, or it shouldn't be a planet.
So the trouble is, if it's a planet, there's lots more planets out there. You know, they have to change the textbook every 6 months, you see.
Yeah.
So that's not right.
No, that would be a waste of paper.
And what really attracted me about the project was the fact that I want people to come. Some people want to come for the astronomy and get the music for free, as it were. Yeah. And some people come for the music, and I want to kind of give them a little bit of something to take away on the science as well. So that's really, I think, what's really good about this project is that different people coming about it from very different perspectives. And I think the best thing is to learn something about the other, or to really appreciate the music if you want to come for the astronomy.
I think the animation really enhances that as well.
It does, and that's where.
So how did you bring in Nick?
So Nick and his team at Human have been involved in lots of visuals, do all the posters and lots of visuals to do with the festival. And so when Stuart and I met with Nick and a colleague maybe 6-9 months before the actual performance last September, they showed a few examples of the kind of things they can do, and it was like, wow, you know, I mean, the things I put together for a talk, you know, I can spice things together, but I couldn't do what they did, and you probably saw from some of those, you can see some of those images that they really, part of it was me giving them things that they could work with, and part of it was their creativity and actually piecing it together and adding in their own original content. So I think it really worked. I think the combination of music, the science, and the visuals that Nick and his team really put together made it stand out.
Fantastic. So Nick, do you want to talk to us about how that happened?
Yeah, I think for us it was kind of two tasks really, I think. Yeah. One task was what I'd call information graphics. Yeah. So, I mean, essentially we're a graphic design team that have learnt a lot of other skills. So all the animation was all done in-house. We didn't farm any of that out. It was all done here in Sheffield. So
what did you use for the animation? What sort of tech do you use for any technical
you asked me what programs we use.
Yeah.
That's a boring student question.
But there might be people out here who want to talk to you about that.
It's a mixture of things. I mean, it's kind of like...
and I do graphic design, so I want to know.
Right, yeah. Well, Michaela's here who did a lot of it. I mean, I guess like Cinema 4D, After Effects is kind of the thing we use the most. And yeah, I mean, it's a mixture of things really. But I mean, the core of it was a design project, I guess. So we started out with the information graphics, if you like, which is something we've done a lot of. We've worked with other academics, and you know, we worked with the information that Paul gave us and the different facts, and we kind of made them as impactful as possible. And we kind of gave a visual look, if you like, to the whole project as well, kind of like a branding. So that was like one kind of aspect and one kind of, side to the work that we do. And then also we had this element about the overall performance, and another part of our work is we work a lot in the music industry, and we work with artists and DJs and musicians, and we produce visuals for performances in huge festivals, and we're used to doing things that sometimes have to work on multiple screens or on like huge screens and stages. So it was kind of thinking about the venue and how that was going to work, and as Paul said, we had 8 screens at the Oxford, and we had a screen on each wall.
That's amazing. And
you kind of think, well, early on we had discussions, didn't we? We were saying, well, we can't have something on every screen. It'll just be too much,
Yeah.
So we sort of paired them, so there was 4 pairs, but at any one time there was 2 screens with different things. But obviously, I mean, the way we thought about it is people can only take in so much information, so as a spectator, you're there, you're kind of watching the orchestra, which is a thrill in itself, and then you're watching screens trying to take things in. So we had to really balance the information and make sure that it was it was kind of exciting and exhilarating, but it wasn't information overload based in people could take these things.
Planetarium effect.
I was just
So that's,
it sounds like it's creating that.
Back to Stuart's closed planetarium.
So that was the idea.
So open the planetarium to everyone.
Meeting Vanessa in the pub that day and saying, I want to turn the Octagon into a planetarium.
That's amazing.
How can you enable me to do that?
sounds
that
like
was
you did it.
I mean, that's where and when we decided to pair the screens, and then also, for Paul's segments, I mean, originally I think we were just going to have almost like a PowerPoint or something like you'd normally have, and then we said, well, let's get involved in those sections as well and make them more dynamic. And
so you were taking like NASA images and things like that, but then were you animating them and kind of bringing them to life?
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about the NASA images, you can use them for things like this, and you can get high quality versions. So the visuals, they're a combination of NASA imagery, the factual graphics and figures, and then things that we've generated as well. So, some of the planets, we don't have much material, there's not many visuals, there's like one or two. So we'd kind of visualise how it would look if you're on a nearby moon looking at that planet. Basically.
So like when like Saturn rises in the distance at one point, you sort of imagined from the surface of one of the moons?
Yeah,
that looks incredible.
Yeah. You had the benefit of Paul's accuracy then, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, Paul's sort of making an uncomfortable face now. How accurate did you feel you needed to remain to keep the visuals as stunning as they were and as impressive as they were?
I think what was good is that Nick and his team kind of put together their kind of interpretation about how things might look, and then a few things I had to rein back in a little bit.
Really? Was there anything like Venus? There's artistic license, but what was too controversial?
So, for example, Venus originally looked like a nice holiday destination. It looked like a nice place
Venus
to go.
is like pretty vile,
So there were a few things where I had to just do a bit of reining in, but overall it was great to get their kind of creative take.
But it'd be okay to make the exoplanets look like that, right?
Oh yeah.
The ones that are like potentially Goldilocks zone. Habitable for us one day.
Yeah, anything goes for those.
Put a stamp on them. Who knows? But that sounds great. So we've talked about, I think we've talked about everything but the music.
But the music.
So, George, the conductor, take it away.
The conductor. So when Stuart said to me, I want to do the planets in the Octagon as a planetarium, would you be interested? It didn't take me long, I don't think, to say yes, of course, because it is such an amazing piece of music. It was written in 1914 to 1916, so it's relatively modern. There's been a lot of classical music since then, but it's inspired so much musically, and it's just such a delightful piece of music, all the way from everyone knows the big tune in the Jupiter movement, which is I Vowed to Leave My Country hymn tune, now known as, all the way to the really ethereal, creepy stuff at the end of Neptune that's absolutely amazing. And as Stuart said, it was originally inspired by astrology rather than astronomy.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's really interesting actually, because he wrote it. Holst's favourite book was a book called What is a Horoscope by Alan Leo, I think his name was.
That's nominative determinism, if I've ever heard it.
Well, yeah. and so all the movements are based on this kind of astrology, these ideas of what the planets can affect us and that kind of business, rather than them actually as objects in the sky.
Right, okay.
But I think if we look at the music, Holst had some idea about the actual astronomy of the planets, the objects themselves, stuff like quirky little things like in Jupiter. I think, is Jupiter the fastest rotation of all the planets? See, I know my...
There you go.
And if you listen to the music that Holst's written, it's really rotational music. It's really fast and it's the most energetic, and you really do get that. And what Holst did as well was he wrote so much coldness into the outer planets. So for Uranus and Neptune, towards the end, Saturn even, towards the end of each one, you get colder and colder and colder. And in music, we can create this effect quite effectively, really, by asking the strings to play differently to how they would normally. So a string section in an orchestra would naturally do something called vibrato, which is wiggle the fingers, basically, to very slightly change the pitch, which adds a lot of colour and beauty to the sound. But what we're doing in stuff like Neptune, which is really lends itself to Holst's music, is without vibrato whatsoever. So it's this really cold and still sound, and so you don't get any colour. And it kind of makes me think Holst wrote this thinking obviously about astrology, but also thinking about Neptune as a planet, and what would it be like if we were stood on Neptune now looking outwards. It's this expanse, and it's cold, and it's never-ending. And the very end of the suite is a fade-out with an offstage choir. And it's this idea that it's fading away, and then there's this nothingness, and we don't know what's out there, really. But obviously, Paul does. But so it's such an amazing piece of music. I absolutely love it.
Have you got a favourite movement?
I think I change every day.
Wow,
My favourite is.
How do you feel today?
It's a Venus day today, I think. We had a rehearsal yesterday, and we spent quite a lot of time sorting out a couple of the moments in Venus, and there's just some absolute beauty. And again, it's very early on in the suite, and it's obviously very early on in the solar system, but there is this hint at coldness and darkness, and towards, as you get further in, there's these moments where the music just kind of becomes completely still and stops, and you think this is what's coming in the suite and what's coming in space, and it's just stunning.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
See, Mars is my favourite.
Mars
Now
is brilliant,
but Mars is a bit of like the sort of show pony. Everybody knows Mars. But now I'm going to listen out carefully for Venus.
Exactly,
to actually appreciate Venus.
Yeah.
But so one of the instruments, in the orchestra, if I'm pronouncing it right, is the celeste.
The celeste,
So what is the celeste? I've never heard of that before.
So a celeste looks a little bit like an upright piano, like a normal box piano. But inside, instead of having strings like you would have on a piano, when you hit the key, the hammer hits a metal bar, so almost like a glockenspiel.
Like a tenor, a more tin.
Yeah, so it's quite a sweet sound actually. It's like so the metal bars, and it's a soft hammer hitting it, so it's a really sweet and elegant kind of
like a classy marimba.
Yeah, like a classy marimba. Okay. What a great way of describing it. I love it.
Classy marimba. Right.
So yeah, in the music you get this celeste stuff, which is this little sweetness that sits on top of everything, and all the way from that you get hundreds of different effects and colours from the percussion. You get lots and lots of different sound effects and things essentially from the percussion. You've got an orchestra that's almost the largest you can have, as many strings as possible. Every single kind of wind and brass instrument that you could wish for. There's a brass instrument called the euphonium, which is a mini tuba.
That's more a marching band.
And that's usually marching band or brass band. And in orchestral repertoire, the euphonium's barely ever used. I mean, the euphonium players get really excited whenever anyone ever does the planets, because it's their big moment to join an orchestra, as they're usually stuck in brass bands. So we've got to look out
for the celeste and the euphonium.
Celeste and euphonium.
But then you're a trumpet player, but this is more of a string sort of situation. Do the trumpet players get a look in?
Yes.
Is there which planet should we look out for?
So Jupiter definitely, Mars definitely, and then the big bit in Saturn as it gets louder and louder and louder, and it's just this epic trumpet stuff. And we're very, very lucky that our principal trumpet for tomorrow is brilliant. So it's very exciting. As a trumpet player, I'm so honoured to have this guy in the orchestra.
That's great.
So it's well exciting.
And then, so the relevance of Holst today, 100 years later. I mean, how do you feel about can the audience get more now that we know more about space than there was when he wrote it?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's always difficult to think about music quite as black and white as that programmatic thing where this is anything more than just a beautiful piece of music. But I think there is so much in the music that has inspired music since, and now that we're doing it with this project, it becomes so relevant. So you see Jupiter, and the thing about the fastest rotation and the coldness of Neptune, and the kind of the fieriness of Mars, and this and so it becomes so relevant. And in music, obviously most people know about Star Wars and John Williams.
I'm wearing Star Wars shoes right now, actually.
Oh, that's amazing. So
the soundtrack, that's incredible.
So, well, actually, it was completely fluke, really, or John Williams' persistence that meant that the soundtrack existed, because George Lucas, when he commissioned John Williams to do the music for Star Wars, he had in his head all of the Planet suite to fit in and to fit around it. And he said to John Williams, make it work. Take sections from the planets and make it work in Star Wars.
Right.
And John Williams said, of course, Mr. Lucas, whatever. But if you let me compose my own theme first, if you don't like it, I'll do whatever you like with the planets, but please let me. And so George Lucas said, okay. And we got the Star Wars music as we know and love.
It's amazing. But it sounds like you're saying we could also turn off the music and put on the planets and just sit back.
Well, yeah, there was
whatever hour of night
there was a bit of a copyright issue at one point where
okay.
John Williams got in trouble because he lifted a massive bit of Mars. And
I mean, that's why I like it so much.
And so the big at the end of Mars is in Star Wars, exactly like that.
You guys know what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's just it's very obvious. And what's really interesting as well, when you watch Star Wars, listen to the music, it's not just the really obvious bits like those moments that he's basically just looked at the Planet Suite and gone, I'm going to play that, and he used that. A lot of the slow and ethereal stuff in Star Wars, like the music when they get on the planets and stuff, it's all lifted from Neptune or Uranus or Saturn, and all this kind of, and it is what it is. It's brilliant, so it works.
Okay, now I'm looking at. I thought we were going to throw down about Pluto, but now I'm like, oh my God, Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it feels like almost like Holst was a collaborator on this particular project as well. It seems like it was perfectly suited to everything that you guys added. But what's the future of this? I wanted to ask Vanessa, what's happening next with it? Because it can't just stop now. Tomorrow night can't be the last performance.
Oh, no, they're all going to Latitude, all of them. Well done, eh? Yeah, they're going to be in the DocFest tent at Latitude. And again, it's an amazing collaboration. I know Tanya from the Festival Republic, but they contacted DocFest, and Sylvia rang me up and said, do you think there's any chance of it going to Latitude? And I'm like, what, 100 musicians, a choir, all of them? It'll cost a fortune. But I rang up Stuart, and he basically, him and George, got together and have changed it again. So, not just the project or I think what's incredible about it is constantly evolving and changing, which is good because that's what research does. The music is, I didn't know that about Star Wars, but I'm just thinking, it's about the only classical piece of music I like, because I love Star Wars. That's probably why. I'm more of a jazz girl, so I really, probably the only piece of classical music I know is The Planets. I didn't know there was 100 people, so when Stuart put his application in, I was like, what, 100 people? How are we going to afford this? So I think, again, so it's going to Latitude, which is amazing.
Can all 100 people go to Latitude, though?
What?
Can all 100 people go to Latitude?
No,
what
they've
have you got
changed
to do
it. So
to
it's
change
the chamber now, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've arranged it for 17-piece band. So it's gone from 75-piece orchestra plus a 30-strong choir to 17 musicians and 6 or 8 students.
And you couldn't call somebody and be like, right, I need a new arrangement. You had to sit and rearrange
I've done that, yeah.
We got the funding from Latitude for it, but the best thing for Paul is the physics, the astronomy never changed, does it? You're there. You can.
I can just me and the visuals. That's fine.
I'm cheap. And we have talked about going and putting funding for the Arts Council. Stuart has this great idea of going to different areas and using local choirs and local.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And Paul's going to put together like a team of postdocs and young science engagers who want to take this out.
Go out.
So just go out or have PowerPoint will travel, really.
That sounds amazing.
To me, one of the best things about the history of science is it's completely stars of science. All the great researchers went out and told people about their work. So I think in a way we're just continuing that tradition. I did have to convince them all that, for them who didn't know about Latitude, it is the poshest festival in the world, Latitude.
Really?
Probably not as posh as Wilderness, because I do shows at all the festivals. I reassured them they get a backstage area, they get proper toilets, they get proper showers, they get a fantastic bar.
So they are glamping.
They are glamping.
Okay.
I did say that to you, didn't I? I said it is glamping. Do not worry, it is not Glastonbury and a hole in the ground. You are in a posh tent.
I think the shower was a big deciding factor.
There are showers.
For us, actually.
Showers.
Oh, I might go. Exactly. I'm from Brooklyn. I don't even glamp. Glamping is a hotel near a field.
That's a new audience as well.
That's fantastic.
So that's going to be in the DocFest film tent, and that'll be fantastic. And again, I think what's good as well for the musicians, they learn how to work in a very intense professional environment in different contexts. So, you know, at the Octagon they had a day set up. For the Crucible, you've got 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, for Latitude, you probably get an hour.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
that.
That.
Yeah.
So
you
you know,
basket, just basket, man. Just like,
yeah,
you
but
know.
that's really
That'd be
fantastic
amazing.
because you've got to learn how to do it. We almost have more the time in the world in the academic institute, don't we? And then we go out into the world, and it's a different environment.
And how do you think? I mean, how do you think the arts and sciences enhance each other?
Ask the arts and the scientists. How do you think it enhances it, Paul?
Well, I think the visual, to me, the visuals are amazing, but I think the music really adds something else.
Yeah.
You know, live music has something completely different. It really does. It empowers the music, empowers the visuals, and so I think they really complement each other amazingly.
And I'm going to turn it over for questions now for a couple of minutes before we finish. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
All right. So, has anyone got any questions for us? Please bring them up. Otherwise, we'll keep talking.
I've got just because you mentioned the Star Wars.
We've got a mic. Oh, great.
You got a mic, but it doesn't work.
Turn it on.
Sorry.
Not that exciting.
It's going to be
This is
amazing.
a big
Don't worry.
builder now.
Don't worry.
It's Star Wars.
Don't worry.
We're all excited.
Vanessa's
Yeah,
sold
we're
already.
on it.
I'm the biggest
Yeah,
Star Wars fan in the world.
We
They
were
know
when
that.
the last trailer came out. Vanessa and I would like stopped what we were doing dead and turned on my laptop to watch
And
it.
I cried, didn't I?
Yes, it was. And we were like, that wasn't in the previous trailer, so don't worry.
Well, I'm going to move it away from Star Wars. But
Okay,
no,
we'll
just
be
because you
fine.
mentioned that John Williams, taking the influence of Holst and the copyright issues there, am I correct in thinking that the film Gladiator, that Hans Zimmer scored, he also did exactly the same, that he basically nicked the planets. And at that time, Holst was still in copyright.
Yeah,
as
so...
well, but I don't know the end of that story, whether he was sued.
So
or
I think, again, definitely for Star Wars, they had to put Holst on the writing credits for the music. And obviously he was long gone by this point. But in the UK, the music can't enter the public domain, I think, until after 70 years after the composer's death, isn't it? Yeah. Or
it's 50 years in America.
Yeah, and Canada's some in old late 60 or something. It changes everywhere you go. But so I think it would have been 2000 and... No, I don't remember when the Holst came out of copyright. But I know for certain that there was big issues with Star Wars, and I had seen about Gladiator as well. And if you listen to the Gladiator score, it's so obvious. Hans Zimmer's really quite well known for being quite derivative from other composers' works. And I mean, that's his... No, I think Hans Zimmer's really, really great at what he does. He's produced some amazing film soundtracks.
Is he bringing music to contemporary audiences?
And I think he is part of this really fast gathering momentum idea of film music being the new form of classical music, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it is something people are engaging with, orchestral music or classical music, without really realising it.
But people name-check film composers like Danny Elfman, the way you would name-check composers of classical music.
Exactly. Danny Elfman, John Williams, Hans Zimmer. Yeah. But Gladiator, if you listen to it, there's some... Again, the slow, beautiful moments. There's, I think, I'm right in saying there's a trombone tune near the start of Saturn. I think that's lifted almost directly as this ploddy string stuff, and the trombones have got this beautiful melody over the top of it, and it's so obvious. And so I don't know for certain if he got in trouble for it, but I should imagine he will have he will have been. His
theme's in 4 as opposed to 5 at the beginning or something, but otherwise...
Exactly. It's the same, yeah.
Gosh.
Good soundtrack, though.
Good shout. Now I'm going to have to give that a listen.
Yeah,
Might
I haven't seen
not
Gladiator for
clean on the
years.
film, but yeah, we'll see. Have we got any more questions? Pass the mic.
Hi. I really like the way that the project is, I mean, obviously sort of in a school's context, cross-curricular, and it was interesting to hear that there were school trips coming to see the performance. Quite often in schools there can be a lack of vision of how things can cross over, so I was wondering whether you knew when the schools got involved whether they saw it as a science thing that was going to improve their science scores, or whether they were seeing it as a music trip, or whether they actually took it on as a cross-curricular project?
That's one for Paul.
Well, it clearly had to go to both the music departments in schools and to the kind of science departments, because clearly, it was clearly intended to be a cross-disciplinary event in terms of the performance itself. The school session we had in the matinee performance was complemented, as the introduction gave, that we had the morning of kind of science-based activities. So there were a number of things we put on, like making comets, talks about aliens. We had the exhibit from the Research Council with big telescopes and things for hands-on things students got to use. So it was kind of, the morning was very much science, physics, and the afternoon was kind of a bit of both. And so really, I think what I liked about that actually, I made sure that the narrative I gave was appropriate for kind of age 10 up, let's say. We intended to kind of go for years, sort of 11, 12-year-olds, and we ended up getting a few younger kids in, but I think actually at that age, they're just kind of absorbing all the information they could, and the feedback we got from the schools was also very positive on both the morning activities and the afternoon. I'm not sure if Stuart wants to add anything.
Yeah, just to add to that. So some follow-on music projects we're doing now is going to schools and having them compose their own music for Mars. Mars is actually a big BBC project at the moment, exploring 10 really big, important classical music pieces, and Mars is one of them. So there's kind of that introduction there, and they'll be doing some composition. But the way we're approaching it is actually they're working with physicists as well. So for Mars, they're going to be exploring the concepts of surfaces and how can we create musical surfaces in music. So definitely that kind of integrative approach between the sciences and music with the school stuff, definitely.
And I think integration between science and the arts is something that we've lost really since 300, 400 years, even earlier, closer than that, because obviously the Greeks considered the arts, philosophy and the sciences all as equal. And if you look at the great astronomers and scientists, they were all musicians of some kind. Keppel, he was a composer, I think, wasn't he? And if you look at all these scientists who had interests in the philosophies and the arts so much, and obviously Da Vinci's the big example, a scientist that just autonomous everything, wasn't he? He was
even Feynman was bongos.
Physics
loves music.
I mean, he was.
Robert Hooke was, and all of them, of the great 18th, 19th century. But it was a well-rounded classical education. I think it's a 20th century thing in a way. To me,
to separate things out.
Yeah. But for me, seeing the sciences and the arts are just two different ways of interpreting the world around us, right? And actually, there may be different skill sets and certainly different knowledge set, but both push boundaries, both ask questions, both try new things, both, there are actually a lot of similarities there in the approach between the disciplines, I think.
Which is why this works, because we've got the visuals and the astronomy and the music, and it all kind of just slots in lovely. It's looking outwards at the world, isn't it, and the solar system in all ways.
I mean, to me, the visuals was an added dimension, because you can imagine, you have got great science and arts collaboration. You can look at different examples and all over the world, but I think adding that kind of rock star visuals, maybe I didn't know that.
Human was a great choice for it if they do rock star visuals.
I didn't realise that Paul had banked them down. I was like, oh, cool. They look just like my science fiction book when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Those beautiful drawings that you
the design of it and the fonts and everything just conjure up that sort of
historical
view of the future.
I still can't get my head around from how they get those images from the telescope and then they look like they've just been tripping. I just don't know. I'm going to ask Paul at one point, how do they get them? How do they get them? I watched a documentary on the Hubble and the first images that come back, and then there's all these guys with all these little coding, and all of a sudden this amazing image comes back, which you've shown in some of your lectures, and I just don't know where they get that from. I don't know how it's produced.
We're going to have to do another show.
Yeah. You have a question?
Did you do any evaluation after you had your performance to see how individuals changed?
Yeah, we do mass evaluation. We have to evaluate everything, even to the point of... so we can tell you how many people came, what the age groups, what the reaction was. We did on-the-spot evaluation, we did after evaluation, We did evaluation with all the academics. We did evaluation with the audience.
Very thorough.
We did evaluation. We
Did the audience learn anything scientifically?
Yeah.
There was.
So I think it was the feedback we got was half learnt a lot and half learnt a bit.
Yeah,
and no one learnt nothing.
But is it possible that those that learnt a bit already knew a lot, and that was why they came?
Yeah. So there was a kind of 1 to 5. There was about 10 questions just about the science, 10 questions about the music, 10 questions about the event. Interestingly for me, the biggest complaint, and it was only a complaint, was the music aficionados didn't like the fact there was children in the audience.
Ew.
Yeah. So because the evening show sold out so quickly, we opened up the children's show, the school show, to the public.
Did any of the kids say, "Oh my God, all these grown-ups were there, and we were trying to have a good time"?
Actually, some parents and the children said the only thing we complain about was people tutting about the children. So that's
goes
both ways.
Yeah.
Kids are welcome everywhere.
The science thing was really, so it was something like 97% satisfaction for the event, and 3%. It was amazing, wasn't it? 97% satisfaction. And Paul didn't tone down the science at all. It wasn't like baby science. It was really, really hardcore facts. But the most important thing for me was that it was just so funny, 3% tutting about children in the audience.
I think what was really lovely about the feedback as well, as we've kind of alluded to, that some people went for the visuals because they've seen human stuff before. Some people went for the science and then wrote to us saying, actually, oh God, we've never heard an orchestra before. We've never seen a live orchestra. I took my kid and he's now taking music lessons at school. And similarly, people who come to concert performances weekly say, we've never seen anything like that before. We've learned so much this evening. So that kind of different, I guess, entrances for engagement really, and going to see something and taking away something else was really, really positive from the feedback. Yeah.
And we put Stuart and Paul on the back of all the buses in Sheffield. They were like promoted like rock stars. It was much to the whole of your soul.
Space is the new rock and roll. It's pretty awesome.
Does it expand into other local cities beyond Sheffield, or is this kind of just
What, the festival?
so that you could take it to other cities?
Well, there's an aspect about that. As my kind of Sheffield public head on, it's like the funding I have is to create a vibrant city.
To bring people here.
To bring people to Sheffield and to bring my academics out. Other projects can go different ways. If other universities want to do that, I'm sure we can help them do it. But it's to us, it's about taking our research international and national and local. And this obviously it will go international, global, through different mediums and through the platforms Nick's created for us, going to Latitude. I'm sure none of them would object to a world tour, would you? Or an intergalactic tour.
Stay tuned, guys, for Brooklyn, Kepler 22b,
Really wonderful. And that
Oh yeah,
So for example, we've also put the kind of the actual talks I did in September on iTunes U. So for example, those are available for free for people to look at and to watch. And we've had tens of thousands of hits.
Tens of thousands of downloads. It's amazing. So the talk with the iTunes people in the university created this whole iTunes U stuff. So it's really well produced. And then it got so many downloads within a week. It was on the iTunes homepage as pick of the week, wasn't it, Nick? So it was all different platforms. I mean, that's why I think DocFest is a great festival, because it's all those different platforms. So it's not just about this, that, or the other. But yeah, I think it's we had 150 projects and 375 events in Festival of Mind, 26,500 people. But I'd say Sounds of the Cosmos was the top one of all the events. It really blasted everything else out of the water. Not just in numbers, but in audience satisfaction. And then, when I told our PVC for Science that we were going to Latitude, he just wrote back, didn't he? Great gig, It's really, so that's a different audience, isn't it? That's a different audience. I think that's important.
I think we're going to have to draw things to a close, but thank you to everybody that's on the panel, and thank you to you guys for coming along. Give one last clap for everybody and for space. And watch this space, and see you guys tomorrow night. We're looking out for the Celeste, the euphonium, the graphics. We're making sure that Venus doesn't look too habitable, and we're imagining that day it was all conceived back on that monsoon season.
Absolutely.
Closed planetarium moment. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chella.
Thank you.